So I didn't know this. But apparently, you can cancel student loan debt using the power of the presidency. And that's what this video is about. Now, before the right-wingers and the corporate Democrats go too crazy and all my Christians out there, let me explain this. So everybody keeps talking about the student loan debt crisis. And we do have a lot of it. You know, the student loan debt crisis is just awful. We got $1.645 trillion in student loan debt. Yet Congress just never wants to pass it because all of them take money from their donors, and their donors include the loan executives and the debt providers, the debt collectors, well, not debt providers, the debt collectors, who we owe our student loans to, the payday lenders and all of those. So they take money from those donors, and so whenever they're passing their tax cuts and their Wall Street bailouts, which a lot of these companies are in and you know on Wall Street and they have stock there, they never pass student loans forgiveness. Isn't that funny? Trump passes a $1.9 trillion student or a tax bill, which benefits the rich. 83% of the wealth goes to the top of the heap, the top 0.1%. The Democrats and Republicans passed the biggest upward transfer of wealth in the human race to the biggest, most wealthiest corporations and people in the world, in the U.S. possibly, and the world. And they just it was $4.25 trillion, and they just cannot find a way to cancel student debt. Well, I got away. And I think it was David Sirota talks about this, how Joe Biden can legally pass student loan forgiveness by not even going through Congress. He doesn't need Congress because, number one, he could do it through executive order. Order the Department of Education and the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Education to forgive all student debt. All of it. Wipe it out. All $1.645 trillion and whatever change is left. Cancel it. Now, the second thing, why does he not need Congress? Because Joe Biden is not spending. Joe Biden is not setting a budget. Joe Biden is not passing a tax policy. He can recommend and propose things to the Congress, but he can't just do that willy-nilly like Trump did. So he obviously is using constitutional power because he's not going against the Congress. The Congress would have to spend. Now, if he said, now I want to do this with a $50,000 tax credit, okay, then yeah, he would need Congress to help him pay that. Now, I think we should do that. That anybody who paid the student loans, along with canceling the student debt, he should then send a bill to Congress and say, now we need to give them a $50,000 tax credit. I got that from a Republican. Now, here's the thing. He could also maybe pay back the debt that people paid. Maybe. Who knows? So Joe Biden, legally with the pen of the presidency, could pass student loan forgiveness. No Congress, no Republican blocking, nothing. All he has to do is order his Secretary of Education, possibly VP Kamala Harris, and say, I want to cancel student loan debt. Go. That's all he needs to do. Everything he needs to do, and then student loan debt can be canceled in this country. And for once, we can lift the burden of going to school off the shoulders of Americans in this country. Because anytime you go to school, well, now you committed the crime of going to school. You can't get a drink at 18 years old. You most likely can't own a gun. You can't get your CCW when you're 18. You can't rent a car until you're 25. But you can surely at 18 years old, when your brain has not developed, when you've learned nothing about credit cards, when you've learned nothing about debt, sign up for $20, $30, $40, $50,000 in student debt. So just because you went to school, you committed the crime of getting an education. And now you're stuck for 20, 30, 40 years, even 50 sometimes, paying off your student debt. And then they garnish your wages, and then they garnish your Social Security, and then they garnish any other kinds of benefits you might get. Your welfare checks, anything else, because you owe these loan providers. Well, guess what? We can get rid of all of that. And by the way, if Joe Biden does this, how much freedom will you have? Gee, my wife needs a new car. It's breaking down too much. I'm spending $200-$300 every month just trying to fix her freaking car. You could, let's say you owe $10,000 on student debt. It's gone. Spend that on your wife's car. I want to put a down payment on the house, but I can't because I got student loans. Guess what? You'll be able to do that now. You know what? I want to refinance the house. I want to sell it and buy a new one. There you go. You can do that. I want to send my kids to college. I want to start a new business, a small business. I want to take a vacation with my kids. You could do that because now we're not taking the money from you that you went to go get an education for and then got in debt. Maybe you want to go back to school. Oh, by the way, Joe Biden should make college tuition free. How are we going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for it? Shut up. Shut the hell up. You want to know how we pay for it? Stop spending $750 billion on the effing military, and maybe that's how we can afford it. Maybe. I don't know. That's just a suggestion. How about we stop spending $50 billion in Afghanistan every year? Oh, look. I just gave you how we can pay for free college. $100 billion. About $130 billion went to Trump. $132 billion extra dollars went to Trump for the military. That's literally all the money we need to provide for a free college. Tuition-free college. Oh, but when our taxes go up? Your taxes are already going up. They're collecting your taxes already. And they're using your tax dollars not to give you health care, not to give you jobs, not to raise your wages. Nothing. Nothing. They're just taking all of that and providing for the military-industrial complex and the defense contractors and the warlords and saying, well, we're just going to go into endless, senseless wars to get rich off the oil, the lithium, the nylon, and every other natural resource that's in Venezuela, that's in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, anywhere else, Latin America. That's all they want to do. So how about we take Joe Biden's pen and stroke it and say, we're getting rid of student debt in this country. There should be no such thing as student debt just because you went to school to get an education. So Joe Biden legally can do this. And by the way, everyone's saying, well, Jason, Republicans are going to take him to court over it. Do it, bitch. Do it, bitches. Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Take me to court over it. Because what Joe Biden could do is get trial lawyers and say, because he's got the federal government at his disposal, the Justice Department, like Trump did, although his department was awful, stupid, terrible. Anyway, he's got the department and say, what kinds of laws are there that I can't break because I don't want to break them because I don't want the Republicans to take me to court, and then they win. And then they knock down this executive order. Oh, here, Mr. President, here's how we can craft this executive order and craft this student loan debt forgiveness. And when the Republicans take you to court, you put out ads. You have press conferences. You blast the shit out of them so that in 2022, Americans remember, oh, you forgave my student debt. You gave me more money so I could take care of my sick grandma. You gave me more money to buy a car, lease my house, lease my car, or start a brand new business, send my kid to college, develop a savings account. I don't know, something. Stimulate the economy locally. So again, Joe Biden, and by the way, one last argument. People say, oh my God, what about the people who are paying their debt? Huh? You're just being irresponsible. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. That's like saying, oh, you want to cure people from leukemia? What about all the people who have died from leukemia? You want to cure people from leukemia? You asshole. How could you do that? Oh, COVID-19. You want to give people a vaccine? What about the people who died, huh? How are we going to pay for it, huh? How are we going to pay for it, asshole? Huh, Jason? How are we going to pay for that? Bernie, how are we paying for that? Huh? No one's saying that. Everyone's like, God, I can't wait for this COVID vaccine to come out. I'm sorry for the 300,000 people that have died in this country because of Trump's lack of leadership and the Democrats' lack of leadership and the Republicans' lack of leadership. But hey, at least we get a vaccine. Oh, no one's saying anything there. Nobody's saying, oh, laryngitis, so there's a cure. Oh, how could you? Oh, blasphemy. You need to go to church and wash your sins away. Go to Jesus. That's the argument they're making. That's the argument they're making. Okay? It's just, I'm saying. Okay? So, in the end, I know I went on a rant, but Joe Biden can use the stroke of his pen power of the presidency to get rid of all student loan debt, and he doesn't need Congress to do it.